This is a quick little tutorial on how to use TimeToast as a timeline creation tool. It's really easy to use. It doesn't have a lot of bells and whistles like Tiki-Talkie. It's a little more streamlined. You know, you can't change colors, so you can see mine's all in purple here, so my timeline's going to be purple. And it doesn't have all of the neat little graphic effects that the other one does, but it's really quite effective and really easy to use. The only real drawback is that it kind of limits all your descriptions to a maximum of 500 characters. So if you're wordy like me, that you may run into a problem with that. So I'm going to show you quickly how to build one, and then I'm going to show you what a fully propagated one looks like. I have a fully propagated one here. But before I actually get to work, what I've done ahead of time is I've gone and taken my I've gone and gathered all my information. I've collected all of my information inside of a spreadsheet just so I can keep it organized. You can do it in Word, in tables. You can do it however you want to collect your information. And the reason I'm doing all my information ahead of time and all my write-ups ahead of time is so that I can take this information, copy it, and paste it into the timeline. And it makes the work go a whole lot faster. So I'm not always working online all the time. I've got everything pretty much ready to go. And just so you're aware, another difference between TimeToast and Tiki-Talkie is when you're loading images to Tiki-Talkie, you're loading links. This one you actually have to download your images and then upload them. So I'm going to make a new timeline here. Let's have a look here. I'm going to spell it just a little bit different than my last one. Canada and World War I. Yeah, that'll be a little bit different than my last one. I'm going to make it public so that everybody can see it, and it'll give it a unique URL so that I can copy that URL and give it to people, and they'll be able to see my timeline. Categorized, let's throw it in the history section so these guys realize that it's history, so it can categorize the other history things. And then I'm just going to upload an intro photo that I've already collected, because I've collected a whole bunch of photos, and this is going to be my intro photo right here. I've collected them, got them in a folder, so anytime I need them, I can just upload them really, really quite nicely. So it's going to upload those, and it's going to create this timeline, and then I'm going to be able to start working on. So I'm going to just create timeline. So here's Canada and World War I. So I'm going to add 3 events here, and I'm going to add actually 2 events and 1 time span, so you can see the difference between them. And entering things, as I say, in TimeToast is really quite easy. So I'm going to add an event. And the first event I'm going to add is, of course, the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. But the main thing is we need to categorize things here. We're categorizing things for the assignment as in the war in Europe and the war in the Pacific and the war at home. Well, this is a war in Europe part, but there's no categories here like there is in Tiki-Talkie. So the way to get around it is just to do this. The war in Europe first, and then add your title. I'm just going to grab my title that I already have sitting in that spreadsheet that I showed you earlier. And so here it is. Better make sure assassination is spelled right. Assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. And then for the description, I've got stuff in my spreadsheet. Now, of course, you could type directly in there if you wanted. Nothing's going to stop you from directly entering. So here I have my description for this, my 4 sentences or whatever that I need, my minimum 4 sentences I need, and then the date for this. The date of this event was in June. It was June 28th, 1914. And so I put that in as June 28th, 1914, and then I'll just kind of upload here. I'll find the image for it, and I've got a newspaper article for that, and I'll hit open or upload. It'll upload that image. Once it gets uploaded here, sometimes the images are a little big and it takes a while, then I hit create the event, and that event is created. Nicely sitting here. It's going to give us a list timeline as we build things. That's perfectly fine, and we'll be able to change views in that. And if I want to edit this, I just click on it. It brings me into its editor. I can update the event. If I made major mistakes, I can delete the event, whatever I want from there. So really simple. 1 event is in, mainly because it's easy to use as a tool, and I've had all my other information prepped ahead of time. So I'm going to add a second event, and I'm going to jump ahead a bit in the timeline. And as I jump ahead in this timeline, this is going to be a war at home. This will be Canada enters the war. And as we get Canada entering the war here, I just got to go grab my information that I need for this. I'll copy that. I'll put that in place. And this was on the 4th of August, 1914. I'll upload a graph. Yeah, I'll change that to 1914 in a second. And we're going to use this one right here. This here is actually a poster where they're trying to get you to sign up in Ottawa. I'll let that go. There, that's in. And 1914, and we'll create that event. So we got 2 events in, and to get around the categorization, we just put the categories in first. And so we have 2 things in. This is the list view currently. If I want to change the view, I can come up here to menu, I can go view this timeline, and we'll put it into a linear view for me, even though they are a little bit further apart. We're gonna propagate a whole bunch more things in here. If I wanted to look at one of these, I can just click on it and it will give me the full description. If I want to click on the image, it gives me the full image, and here it is, trying to get guys to sign up for the Overseas Battalion in Ottawa. Go to Spark Street, sign up. All right, so there's 2 ways to get items in. There's another way to get a different kind of item in, something that happens over a long period of time. Now, things that happen over a long period of time, I'm okay if you put them in as single events, but if you really wanted something to happen over a long period of time, we can add something called a time span. So we'll add an event here. War in Europe again. And this one, we're going to back up a bit on the timeline. This is going to be the major powers of Europe prepare for war. So of course, after Austria gave Serbia its ultimatum, the various countries of Europe start to prepare for war, just in case. And we're just going to end up that down in here. And I'm going to add a little spacing to make it easier to read. So people can see the difference between the Triple Alliance and the Triple Entente. Just like that, the major countries in Europe all have alliances and begin to mobilize. Great. Now, when did that happen? Well, that's obviously started right about the time, or probably the day after, Austria threatened Serbia. So we can put that in 06. Let's put it at the 29th, because they threatened him on the 28th. Or the assassination happened on the 28th. So let's say the 29th of 1914. And of course, war breaks out a month later, so we'll basically say 07, 27, 1914, and we'll create this time span as these guys are going to mobilize over about a month. And the one thing you'll notice here, no place to put an image. And that's really the downside of this, is there's no place to put an image for that. So if there's no place to put an image, this one, really the rest of them aren't spanned. So I guess you could get away with one. But if you just wanted to put it in as a single event starting around the 29th of June, that would be perfectly fine. So if we create the time span here, it gets us the same sort of description. We can click on it. It gives us a period of how long it lasts. We can edit it the same way. And it just appears differently on the timeline, just like that. So it appears as a much longer time span event, as you can see. Now, that's how easy it is to enter things. And the more things that you enter, the more the timeline will be propagated. So I'm going to show you a fully propagated timeline that I've already built. And it's this one right here. No, the names are slightly different. And I'm going to show you exactly what this looks like. So here it is in timeline mode. This is a fully propagated timeline. I'm actually going to go to the edit timeline mode to start. And you can see how many different events I have in, and it shows them in a nice linear fashion, easy to get a look at. If I want to view the timeline here is viewed. There's a number of different ways to look at it. Here is a partial, as a default view. We can go to a wide view. We can go to a full screen view if we want. And the slider along the bottom here is kind of neat, because the slider here allows you to focus in on different sections, which sort of changes the scale of the timeline. So as I move this way, I'm able to break these things up a bit and have a good look at things. And if I click on them, so we'll click on this one, the war begins at home, of course. It brings up the graphic, it brings up our description. If you want to look at the full graphic, you can click it. Nicely executed timeline, very easy to read. It automatically stacks things for you. It adds these nice guides to get to you what it is that you're looking at. really quite straightforward. I really like TimeToast. So that is the timeline view. And if you want to look at the list view, right there, it gives us a nice list view, gives us the full look at each of the graphics, and you can work your way through it that way. And you'll notice up at the top of the screen, once we've got this here, it's got, you know, who's created it, but also up here, it gives us our unique URL. So as long as you made this thing public, other people will be able to get to see it. If you need to hand it in to me, you can just copy and paste this, and I'll be able to see it. Copy and paste it, email it to me, and I'll be able to see it. So really nice, straightforward tool, alternative to Tiki-Talkie. Just not quite as pretty, but very effective timeline tool. If you got any questions, make sure you get a hold of me. Yeah, that's TimeToast.